results. Here, in the very heyday of science's authority, it carries on an aggressive warfare against the scientific philosophy, and succeeds by using science's own peculiar methods and weapons. Believing that a higher power will take care of us in certain ways better than we can take care of ourselves, if we only genuinely throw ourselves upon it and consent to use it, it finds the belief not only not impugned, but corroborated by its observation. How conversions are thus made, and converts confirmed, is evident enough from the narratives which I have quoted. I will quote yet another couple of shorter ones to give the matter a perfectly concrete turn. Here is one. Quote, "One of my first experiences in applying my teaching was 2 months after I first saw a healer. I fell, spraining my right ankle, which I had done once 4 years before, having then had to use a crutch and elastic anklet for some months, and carefully guarding it ever since. As soon as I was on my feet, I made the positive suggestion, and felt it through all my being, 'There is nothing but God. All life comes from Him perfectly. I cannot be sprained or hurt. I will let Him take care of it.' Well, I never had a sensation in it, and I walked 2 miles that day." Close quote. The next case not only illustrates experiment and verification, but also the element of passivity and surrender of which a while ago I made such account. Quote, "I went into town to do some shopping one morning, and I had not been gone long before I began to feel ill. The ill feeling increased rapidly until I had pains in all my bones, nausea and faintness, headache, all the symptoms in short that precede an attack of influenza. I thought that I was going to have the grippe, epidemic then in Boston, or something worse. The mind-cure teachings that I had been listening to all the winter thereupon came into my mind, and I thought that here was an opportunity to test myself. On my way home I met a friend, and I refrained with some effort from telling her how I felt. That was the first step gained. I went to bed immediately, and my husband wished to send for a doctor. But I told him that I would rather wait until morning and see how I felt. Then followed one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. I cannot express it in any other way than to say that I did lie down in the stream of life and let it flow over me. I gave up all fear of any impending disease. I was perfectly willing and obedient. There was no intellectual effort or train of thought. My dominant idea was, 'Behold the handmaid of the Lord. Be it unto me even as thou wilt,' and a perfect confidence that all would be well, that all was well. The creative life was flowing into me every instant, and I felt myself allied with the infinite, in harmony, and full of the peace that passeth understanding. There was no place in my mind for a jarring body. I had no consciousness of time or space or persons, but only of love and happiness and faith. I do not know how long this state lasted, nor when I fell asleep, but when I woke up in the morning, I was well." Close quote. These are exceedingly trivial instances, but in them, if we have anything at all, we have the method of experiment and verification. Footnote: see appendix to this lecture for 2 other cases furnished me by friends. End footnote. For the point I am driving at now, it makes no difference whether you consider the patients to be deluded victims of their imagination or not. That they seemed to themselves to have been cured by the experiments tried was enough to make them converts to the system. And although it is evident that one must be of a certain mental mold to get such results, for not everyone can get thus cured to his own satisfaction, any more than anyone can be cured by the first regular practitioner whom he calls in, yet it would surely be pedantic and over-scrupulous for those who can get their savage and primitive philosophy of mental healing verified in such experimental ways as this, to give them up at word of command for more scientific therapeutics. What are we to think of all this? Has science made too wide a claim? I believe that the claims of the sectarian scientist are, to say the least, premature. The experiences which we have been studying during this hour, and a great many other kinds of religious experiences are like them, plainly show the universe to be a more many-sided affair than any sect, even the scientific sect, allows for. What, in the end, are all our verifications but experiences that agree with more or less isolated systems of ideas, or conceptual systems, that our minds have framed? But why, in the name of common sense, need we assume that only one such system of ideas can be true? The obvious outcome of our total experience is that the world can be handled according to many systems of ideas, and is so handled by different men, and will each time give some characteristic kind of profit, for which he cares, to the handler, while at the same time some other kind of profit has to be omitted or postponed. Science gives to all of us telegraphy, electric lighting, and diagnosis, and succeeds in preventing and curing a certain amount of disease. Religion, in the shape of mind-cure, gives to some of us serenity, moral poise, and happiness, and prevents certain forms of disease as well as science does, or even better in a certain class of persons. Evidently, then, the science and the religion are both of them genuine keys for unlocking the world's treasure house to him who can use either of them practically. Just as evidently neither is exhaustive or exclusive of the other's simultaneous use. And why, after all, may not the world be so complex as to consist of many interpenetrating spheres of reality, which we can thus approach in alternation by using different conceptions and assuming different attitudes, just as mathematicians handle the same numerical and spatial facts by geometry, by analytical geometry, by algebra, by the calculus, or by quaternions, and each time come out right. In this view, religion and science, each verified in its own way from hour to hour and from life to life, would be co-eternal. Primitive thought, with its belief in individualized personal forces, seems at any rate as far as ever from being driven by science from the field today. Numbers of educated people still find it in the directest experimental channel by which to carry on their intercourse with reality. Footnote: whether the various spheres or systems are ever to fuse integrally into one absolute conception, as most philosophers assume that they must, and how, if so, that conception may best be reached, are questions that only the future can answer. What is certain now is the fact of lines of disparate conception, each corresponding to some part of the world's truth, each verified in some degree, each leaving out some part of real experience. End footnote. The case of mind-cure lay so ready to my hand that I could not resist the temptation of using it to bring these last truths home to your attention, but I must content myself today with this very brief indication. In a later lecture, the relations of religion both to science and to primitive thought will have to receive much more explicit attention. Appendix to Lectures 4 and 5. Case 1. Quote, "My own experience is this. I had long been ill, and one of the first results of my illness, a dozen years before, had been a diplopia which deprived me of the use of my eyes